Okay, we're going to talk about debugging strategies and debugging. So we talked about incremental programming in the last video, where you write small pieces of code and you test it. Now we are actually going to talk about fixing some bugs. Okay, so here is a code where we are looking for a number in a list. And if you look in my build list, I'm building my array with a bunch of numbers. I take the index, multiply by 2, and add 1. So essentially, we are starting with an odd number, 0 times 2, 0 plus 1, 1. And then I build, 10 numbers. Then we are looking for a number in the list. And if it finds it, it returns the index of the number. If it does not find it, it returns minus 1. Okay, so let's run this program. We're looking for the number 5. It's an odd number. And here's the original list, and there's 5, which is what I'm trying to find, but index says minus 1. So the 5 is the input. So it's not finding the number. Let's try changing it to 9 and run the program again. So 9 is also there on the list. Let's see if it finds it. So when a program is not working, you want to test it a few times. And then let's try like the outliers, which is the first number and the last number. So let's try the first number, see if it finds it, and run it. And you see that it says index is 0 now. So it finds the first number, it looks like. How about the last number? Let's see if it finds it. And it doesn't find the last number. So how do you go about figuring out the problem? You can always step through your code and see where the problem is. Or what if you had a large list and stepping through the code takes a long time, right? So let's copy this code and go to Replit, and I will show you how to troubleshoot it. Okay, so here is a Replit. That's the same Replit, actually. It's a buggy code that tries to find a number. And we're going to try and see what the problem is here. So the code builds a list, so let's run it here. And it gives me the original list, and if I try to find, oh, this is a random number. Okay, so that's fine. So let's look for the number 73, and it says index is minus 1, doesn't find it. So run it again. It's a little different from the other program. It's just generating random numbers. So if I look for 58, which is the first number, it finds it, which was the same thing there as well. Last number, it doesn't find it. So how do we debug this program? Okay, so obviously our build and my print is all working. It's just the find number function that's not working. So let's switch over to the shell in Replit. On the right-hand side, there's a shell. And compile the program. We're going to use GDB to troubleshoot this. So do G++ minus wall minus G. We are going to use some of these. Minus wall is to compile with all warnings. Minus G is to use the debugging symbols. And then I want to do minus capital O0 for no optimization. And then main.cpp, the name of the file, minus O, the name of the executable. So this is what we're going to use every time we want to use the debugger. We're going to compile the program in the shell on the right-hand side. Don't just do run. Go to the shell. And when you do this, it gives you a few warnings about optimization, which is okay. And it says I have an unused variable, so that's all right. We'll get rid of that later. So now, to be able to run this program, to debug it, try gdb space dot slash main. Dot slash main is to run the executable. Okay, and you need dot slash, so it runs your program because it's not in the path. And what we have here is it loads it, it's sitting in GDB. Now you need to tell it to stop running at a certain point. We want to put a breakpoint. So since we have a problem with the find number, let's put our breakpoint right on line 62. So say B space 62 puts a breakpoint on line 62. Then I'm going to do R to run. It starts the program, it prints the list, and it tells me, okay, now enter a number to find. And this is coming from main, where the prompt is waiting for us to type in a number. So I'm going to say 40. So 40, now we are on line 62. We are going through one line at a time. So I equals 0, I less than size. If I say next, N for next, it goes to the next line 64, and I can print values. P space I prints I is 0. P space value prints the value, which is 40, which is what I entered. P space list of I is 0, gives me the first value, which is 99. So what we are doing here is trying to execute line 64, where you're comparing list of I equals value. Is it? Is 99 equal 40? No, it's not. So it's not going to return the index, but it's going to do something else. So I go next, and it's returning -1 because there's an else here. Is that what we really wanted? Okay, so that is where you stop and think about it and say, well, it should go through the whole for loop, right? Really, and go through the next number. Is 57 equal to 40? No, it's 40 equal to 40 because these numbers are not sorted. So it's got to go through every single number, which is our linear search algorithm, and go all the way till the end. Now, if it finds the number in between, it should return. So obviously we have a problem. As soon as it checks the first number, it returns, which is why the first number always works. So we're going to quit here and see how we can fix this program. So this else is obviously a problem. So if we don't find the number, we shouldn't be returning right away. So what should we do? First, let's get rid of this. That's not going to work for us. So this, let's see what this does. It checks for the value. If it is there in the first position, it returns the index. If it's not, the loop is going to keep going, which is what we really wanted to do. The minute it finds the value, the return is going to take it back from the function anyway, and it's going to go back and print the index. But what if it goes to the whole list and it doesn't find a value? So right now, if you run this program, let's see what it does. If I type in 1 to find, it says index is 4, which is correct. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it works. What if I try to find a number that's not in the list? How about 2? 2 is not there in the list. It says index is 0. That's not really true. It's not in position 0. So you want to come here and add a clause. If it goes to the whole for loop, how do I know it did that? We might have to have a check. So I is going to go through all the way. If I gets all the way to the size, and then we are still out here, that means we haven't found anything. Now it doesn't like that because scope is set inside the loop, so I might have to move the scope of I outside. So let's do I outside. And so I go through the whole loop, entire loop. I hit size. We are done with the whole list. That's when we'll come out, right? When I gets to be equal to size, I less than size will be false and will come out. So if we've gone all the way through and we haven't found the number, then here's where we should return -1. So we shouldn't return a -1 in this for, because if we do, then that is not right. So let's see if this tells us something, because if it is, so let's look for number 3. And now it says index is -1. Now let's see if it works for a number that we were 97. You must test all outliers. Index is 9. Test the first number to see if that works. Oh, this time it was a different number. 69. That works. Index is 0. So make sure you test all different cases after you use your debugger to find the problem.